All right. So today, some of you are going to do this. Some of you have already done this. But what we're going to do is we're going to be preparing our bag to sew the sides. So you've sewn this side and you've sewn this side. And now instead of the sides, they're going to become the top of the bag. And what we're going to do is we're going to be sewing this right side in. So right sides together, we would call that. So the right sides are together. We fold it in half, matching the top sides, and it will look like this. Okay. So to prepare, we need to lay it out. And we're going to measure. Okay. So we're going to put our ruler at the top of the bag. And then we have 2 inches down. We are going to make a small line like this. And then 1 inch down from that, where the 3 is, we're going to make another small line. So the first line is 2 inches down, second line is 3 inches down, and there's an inch long hole. And what we're going to do is we're going to make an X on it. The X means don't sew here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put a pin there just to secure it for now. Then we are going to flip our fabric over and we're going to repeat that process on this side, like so. So we're going to measure once again with our ruler at the top. We're going to measure 2 inches down, make a line, then come down to the 3, make another line, and draw the X. And remember, that means don't sew there. And then I'm going to pin right here. The next pinning part will be to pin all the way down the side. What I like to do is put a pin at both of these lines as a reminder that that's where we're going to stop and that's where we're going to start. And I'll show you what I mean by that in the middle in a minute. All right, for pinning this, we are going to have to make sure our raw edges line up as best as they can. Okay? So we're going to pin, I would say, every 2.5 to 3 inches. So we're going to pin every 2.5 to 3 inches. I would say that, the more pins you put in, the more work it is, and the more easily it will get bunched up, which you don't want to do. Okay, so I'm going to make sure it lines up. And I'm going to put my pin in. I can pinch and push through like that. And you can see it's lined up. Now I want to make sure it's smooth. And we are starting from the top and going to the bottom. Okay, that's lined up. This part is sticking out a little bit, so is that part. That's okay. That's just a tiny bit. Here I'm going to put the pin in by poking it through, twisting it, and pushing it up. However you can get it to line up and secure both pieces together, that is fine. And I'm going to keep going down, lining it up, and then putting the pin in. Making sure it's flat. Going to put one more pin down by the bottom. And as you can see, we have a nice smooth edge. Everything's lined up. You can't see any purple on this side. I mean, just a little smidge there. Same with this side. There's no purple peeking out, so this is done correctly. Now you're going to flip over, and you're going to repeat that process on the other side, making sure it's smooth, making sure it's lined up correctly. All right, now I'm going to show you one common mistake that happens sometimes. If you don't flatten it out, this will get bunched up, and that's not going to sew right. So if that happens, it's no big deal. Take it out, flatten it as you line it up, and repin. Because you know what? Repinning is a heck of a lot easier than pulling your seams out, repinning, and then resewing. Okay, so now we're ready to sew. You can see right here this silver plate, which is called the throat plate. And right here we have some fractions that are in between lines that are etched on our throat plate. We're going to be using this 5/8 inch line as our seam allowance guide. So prior to this, remember, we were guiding the left side of the presser foot along that crease. Now we're going to do something differently. We're going to line up the edge of our fabric along this 5/8 inch line. It can be a little bit trickier because you have to pay attention to that line. However, that's, what you're going to do. I can't mark it with tape because it would get all sticky, and other grade levels have to use different seam allowance guides. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how to line it up right now. All right, so here we go. We're going to take one side of the fabric. Remember, we want the big part to be hanging off to the left. I'm going to take my first pin out immediately. And I'm going to put my fabric in, and I'm going to line my needle up with the top of my fabric, and I'm going to line the side up with the 5/8 inch line right here. And then, of course, I'm going to put my presser foot down. Question always is, do I backstitch? And of course, the answer is always yes. So I'm going to do 3 stitches forward and 3 stitches back. And then, of course, I'm going to turn on my sewing machine. Grab my foot pedal. Should have done that first. And now I'm going to sew to this line. This is super important. This is where people mess up a lot, and then they have to go back and fix it. I want you to make sure that you do it slow enough so that you remember to stop here and backstitch here, because you have to give an inch for that rope. So I'm going to start, and I'm guiding the fabric. If you can see, I'm staying about at the 5/8 inch line. It does not have to be absolutely perfect, but it cannot be much. You have to kind of be as precise as you can. Okay. Now I'm getting close to that pin and close to that line. I'm going to take this out. And if I were you, I would use my hand wheel till I get to that line. I kind of want to try to stop right on that line. That can be hard. Okay, of course, I'm going to backstitch because I'm going to take this out now. So I'm going to hold my reverse button down, go back 3. And go forward 3. Remember, when we take it out, we're going to lift our presser foot up. I'm gonna pull it way back and we're gonna cut it here. We're gonna trim our extra thread here and here. We're gonna remember to throw that away. And then you're gonna have me check this. And then you're gonna get yourself set up to start this on the other side. So we're gonna do those top two first, get them checked, make sure they're correct before we go do the second part of sewing the sides. Okay, so now you've sewn both tops of your fabric, okay? And now we're gonna skip over this X. That's where our rope is gonna go. We're gonna sew from this line and this pin all the way down to the bottom now. Gonna take this pin out first. Remember, I am lining my side up with that 5/8 inch line, and I'm gonna try to get my needle as close to being on that line as possible, okay? If you're going to make a small mistake, it's better to be a little bit lower than a little bit higher because you have to have that 1 inch, at least that 1 inch space. So of course I'm gonna back stitch, 3 stitches forward, 3 stitches back. And now I'm guiding my fabric. I'm gonna take this pin out. I can see right here, I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but my fabric is kind of twisting a little bit, getting a little diagonal. All I have to do is carefully, slowly, gently move it back. I know you guys really want to get your projects done. So of course you may want to go too fast, but if you do that, then you risk getting backed up because you have to pull stuff out. Okay, so here we go. You want to make sure this is flat as you go. That's why if you have too many pins in, it can kind of get a little bit bunched up, and you don't want that to happen. Take my last pin out. And I'm getting close to the edge, so I want to use my hand wheel now. I think I get one more stitch before I go off, because remember, you don't want to sew nothing. Can't sew nothing. And put your reverse button down. Turn your hand wheel towards you for 3 or 4. I'm going to say let's do 5 stitches at the bottom of our bag because we want that to be strong. Release the reverse button. Do 5 stitches back down to the bottom. And then, of course, we're going to pull up our presser foot. Pull our project way to the back of the table. In this case, I can't do that. It's about this far away. Cut that. We're leaving this nice long thread tail for either you or whoever is sewing at your machine next. That way, the machine won't become unthreaded immediately. Then you're going to go ahead and cut this excess thread off. And now you have one side of your bag completely sewn, except for this 1 inch opening where you're going to put your rope. Now, it's going to look different. There's a couple more steps, but that is where your rope is going to go, and that's going to be at the top of the bag. You're going to have to do some ironing, some folding, some pinning, and some more sewing, but you're pretty much halfway through, maybe a little bit more than halfway through. And you have your sides should kind of look like this. And I have another video to show you what to do next, but it's really important to make the next steps work that you have about this much fabric when you open it up. Okay.